So to graph a system of inequalities, I'm going to graph each of these inequalities on the same graph. Now, I went through in the first part of these notes how to graph a single inequality, so this one will go a little bit faster. When I look at this first line, the y-intercept is the constant, that's -2, so I'm going to go down to -2 on the y-axis and put a point. The slope is a positive 3/2, so I have a rise of 3 and a run of 2. Again, the line is a positive slope, so it should rise as it goes from left to right across the graph. Because the line is where y equals -2 plus 3/2 x, and equals is a part of this inequality, when I graph the line, I'm going to make it a solid line, and that did not do what I wanted it to. So let me get a line here. So I'm going to have a solid line that goes through those 2 points, and my line should extend across the graph. Now, the second line, let's do that one in blue. Oh, and the first inequality, let's go back to that. Because it is a less than symbol, looks kind of like a capital L on its side, when I get ready to shade, I want to shade below this line. So it's going to be down here somewhere. The second line, the y-intercept is +1, so I'm going to put a point at +1. The slope, this minus in front of x, is like a -1 for the coefficient. Turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1. So I'm going to go down 1 and to the right 1 for my second point. Because there's no equals here, and the line would be where equals is true, I need to do a dashed line through those two. Now when you draw yours, you just draw it dashed to begin with. Again, on here, I can't do that. So I have to do a solid line, which you don't have to do, and then I have to go back and make it dashed. Yours is much better if you just make it, if you just make it dashed to begin with. You're going to be in a lot better shape than if you try to finagle it the way I have to. So I have a dashed line for this one, and I'm going to make sure that it looks dashed all the way across, which takes just a little bit of time here. Now this one is a greater than symbol, so for greater than I would shade above this line. When I look at those regions, there are 4 different regions, but only one of them has the arrows pointing in from both inequalities. So the only region that I'm going to shade in for my final answer is going to be the region that would give me a true statement in both inequalities. So any point, any ordered pair I pick out here, when I substitute the x and y into the first inequality, I get a true statement. And when I substitute into the second inequality, I also get a true statement. So every point in this shaded region is a solution to the system. Now the second one here, the first line crosses the y-axis at -1, because that's the constant. The slope is a -1/2, so I can think of it as a rise of -1 and a run of +2, or a rise of +1 and the run of -2. The negative has to go one or the other. This line, since it's a negative slope, should fall as it goes across the graph from left to right. I'm going to do a rise of -1 and a run of +2 for my second point. Now, just to make it easier to line this up, I'm going to continue that pattern of points across the graph because my line needs to go through those points. And again, you should have yours lined up nicely when you first draw it in. Mine, sometimes I have to do a little bit of editing on this thing just to get it quite where I want it. The second line crosses the y-axis at +3, because the constant here is +3. A slope of +1, turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1, so I'm going to go rise 1, run 1 in the positive direction. And again, I'm going to do this across the graph just to see where that line goes. That should be a dashed line, but as I said, I can't draw a dashed line using this program to begin with, so I have to do it as solid, and then I have to go back and make it dashed after the fact. Oops, let me undo that. I'm in the wrong place here. So I want this, but I want it to be white and a little bit more solid. Make it easier to do those dashes on the way up. So, for the first line, it's it's less than or equal to, again, that looks kind of like an L. So from the first one, I would want to shade down. From the second one, it's greater than, so I would want to shade up. The region that works for both of them is the region that I'm going to shade in, and that has arrows pointing in from both, so any ordered pair out here that I pick would be true in both inequalities, so this region has the solutions to my system. Thank you.